We're here in the garden, and it's important to spend time outdoors because, as mentioned in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, the invisible attributes of God are clearly seen through nature. And when you read the Gospels, you see time after time, Jesus likens the principles of the kingdom of God to things in nature. For instance, he'll say the kingdom of God is like a man who went and sowed seed. Or, he'll describe the Christian life as a journey of being outdoors on the straight and narrow path, trying to climb up to a city. Or he'll describe how the wise man built his house upon a rock, yet the foolish man built his house upon the sand. You see, in the ministry of Jesus, he was constantly using things outdoors to teach us spiritual lessons about the spiritual walk and about the kingdom of heaven itself. And today in the garden, we're going to look at a simple object lesson that hopefully we can take with us today. Right here in the garden, you see before me, we have some weeds. In fact, there's some weeds all around me right now. And I believe we can learn about sin from weeds. You see, in the parable of Matthew chapter 13 of the sower who sowed his seeds, in the third ground, there were the tares, which are like weeds that would literally choke out the life of the gospel. And that's why I like to liken weeds to sin, because sin literally chokes the life of Jesus right out of us. And so here on the ground, you're going to see that we have some weeds right here. And the lesson is a very simple lesson. You see, if you were to go to a weed and to cut it off at the surface, let's say I took a pair of scissors and just cut the weed right here at the surface, I wouldn't see the weeds anymore. It would appear that the weeds are gone. And you would feel that you did a job well done. In fact, as a child, I did this once. My mom had some tomato plants and I actually was supposed to weed it. And I remember I took a pair of scissors and I just started nipping the tops of the weeds. And I was like, oh, I'm done. It's easy. Well, I didn't know this as a kid, but I know this now, that if you just cut weeds off at the surface of the ground and you leave the roots underneath the ground, eventually, and not too long later, the weeds always grow back. You see, as Christians, often when we have sin in our life and we see that there are areas in our life that need to be surrendered to God, instead of surrendering it completely to God, what we do is maybe some minor behavior modification on the outside, maybe some minor changes, even though the heart really wants to do it, we just won't do it so it looks good on the outside. See, that's cutting the weeds off at the surface of the ground. But how do you get weeds to be gone and to never grow back again? At least that particular weed. It's simple. Instead of cutting it at the surface where the ground is, you take that weed and you pull it up by the roots. You see, every sin has a heart issue at its roots. And in order to have that sin removed from our life completely, we need to surrender our hearts entirely to God and say, Lord, I'm not happy with just behavior modification and just removing the weeds at the surface. But I want you to take the root of the matter, to remove the sin completely from my heart, so that way it never comes back again.